Welcome back to the Diving Into Sports podcast with your hosts Lyle and Nash Henry. Let's dive into today's topic. Week 18, last week of the regular season of the NFL, finished up a few days ago, and we're here to recap it all for you. So in our last video, we went through the Saturday games because we filmed this on Saturday night. Go check that out in our channel. Most recent video we uploaded besides the Dan Skipper video. But yeah, we're going to just talk about all the Sunday games, and then we'll release a wild card preview soon. But first off, Sunday games today. Here we go. First game we're going to go over is Jags at Titans, and this is a touchy subject because Nash is a big Jags fan. Go over this, Nash, but try not to be, just state the facts. Don't be too biased, but we'll let you have at it in another video. Our next video we upload will just be Nash talking Jaguars. Yeah, so first of all, do check that out. It will be uploaded soon after this one. But this game ultimately encompassed the end of a total collapse. I mean, this game was really, really brutal and really, really frustrating for all Jags fans. And it ended up leading to the firing of our entire defensive staff and part of our offensive staff. So we went from a 99% chance to the playoffs a month ago with possibly the coach of the year in Doug Peterson to now missing the playoffs entirely with the staff that's getting totally dismantled with a group of frustrated players and fans. So we totally switched around. I mean, Jaguars were selling playoff tickets 3 weeks ago. They listed playoff tickets on Ticketmaster. That's how bad it gets. I mean, this game was so frustrating for Jaguars fans. It's hard to even say. We couldn't stop the run, which was obviously the big problem in Derrick Henry and Mike Vrabel's last Titans game. They played spoiler really well on us. We just didn't have the mojo. This game was super frustrating. Offense was bad. Defense was bad. Special teams didn't show up. All three phases of the ball performed horribly, like they had the past 5 weeks besides the Panthers win. But this game was just horrible, and it recapped a really brutal season for all of Duval County. Yeah, really a horrible game for the Jags and a horrible season in the end. Also interesting to note that Vrabel got fired after this game. 2 days after. Really odd. There must have been tension inside the organization. We'll release a coaching video too, don't worry. Because there's been a lot of coaching news too. But as for this game, talking about the stats, I mean, Trevor threw 2 picks. Trevor regressed as the year went on, and that's easy to say, and I don't think anyone will disagree with me. Trevor had a bad year, disappointing year, and now there's going to be questions asked, is he the future for the Jaguars? It's something you've got to look at as a team in general. I mean, when you have your franchise quarterback performing at such a low level for the majority, at least the more valued part of the year, it's a problem. I mean, since the Bengals Monday night game where he got banged up, he's really gone downhill, and you can't have stats dramatically decreasing as the year goes on because games in December and January are more important than the ones in September, obviously. Yeah, and also Derrick Henry. I mean, he ran for over 150 yards in this game, and this will be his last Titans game, most likely. The Titans are going to be abysmal next season. New coach, Will Levis, no Derrick Henry. They're going to be relying on some fresh faces and some young ones, and we'll see how that goes. But really, they played spoiler for the Jaguars season, where they looked like at one time they were one of the best teams in the league. We had the 1 seed. We had the 1 seed for 3 hours. And let's just say they don't have the 1 seed anymore. They were sent home packing, and will watch the playoffs from their couch. And while they fire coaches too. So an ugly look for Jacksonville, to say the least. But yeah, Nash is going to post spilling the teal video as he's going to be posting some Jaguars content weekly probably about the Jaguars, and I think I'm going to get into a Chargers one soon too. So look out for that. But in the end, Jaguars season was not to be, Titans season was not to be, but they were able to end it for Jacksonville this past weekend. Looking forward past that game, we've got the Vikings at the Lions, where the Lions were able to win this game 30-20, and the Vikings had very slim hope to win this game. and go to the playoffs. But the Lions were not having any of it. The Lions have looked dominant this year. Crazy that we're saying that. The Lions are a team that's done horrible in recent history. Horrible. Horrible. They haven't won a playoff game since 1965, I believe. Think about that for a second. I mean, that doesn't even seem right. They're one of the oldest teams, too. Oof, they deserve to have some wins here. And they got one this weekend, and they're going into the playoffs with a high seed and a good chance to make a run. The Vikings season was also not to be. Cousins got injured. A massive year. They got Josh Dobbs. Did not pan out. It didn't work. Nothing worked in Minnesota. Justin Jefferson is really all they've got. That's amazing at this point. The only great player for them. But besides that, there's not much looking hopeful in Minnesota.
Yeah, I mean, the thing about this game that was kind of surprising to me was that Minnesota just didn't even really put up a fight early. I mean, Lions got out to a 13-0 start within the first quarter. This game wasn't ever super close. I mean, they did have a chance at the end, but the Lions were just, they were dominant, and they won the win more clearly after a really disappointing ending against Dallas this past week.
But next game, we have Falcons Saints. Artie Smith got fired afterwards and took it to Dennis Allen after the game. He took it to him at midfield after the Saints got a rushing touchdown with Jamal Williams in junk time. And he was furious, piping hot about that. This dude knew it was his last game. Went out flashy, went out with some attention. And I don't think he'll be getting another head coaching gig. I mean, he really stunk for the Falcons. They needed a good coach. They needed a mastermind to really turn things around after they had the Super Bowl run, ended in a choking fashion a few years ago. Now look at him. Bottom 5 teams overall in the league, I would say. I mean, they look really bad right now. Who's going to fix them? They'll have to hire a new coach. We'll see. But the Saints, I mean, they also didn't have a great year. They're not going to the playoffs, but this is a satisfying win against someone in your own division. But again, the Saints thought they would make the playoffs with going after Derek Carr, so a disappointing season for them nonetheless.
Yeah, the thing about the Falcons that I really think they mishandled this whole year was the usage of Bijan Robinson. I mean, in my opinion, they drafted him too high, but then even after that, they just didn't use him much. And in my opinion, the problem with them is that they really went after the coaching so aggressively. If I were them, I would have kept Arthur Smith, and maybe not a lot of people would agree with me on that. But I liked his mindset. He was
He did horrible for this team. What did they do with him that was positive in any direction?
They just didn't have they didn't have much talent at all. Desmond Ridder was not a good draft choice.
They had Bijan Robinson. Come on now.
Yeah,
that guy was was good. He did good this year, but you're supposed to have enough rebuild time to be good by now, and the coach is supposed to help with that, which he clearly only made it worse when he
didn't have a ton to work with. And at least he was a good coordinator before.
Kyle Pitts, just saying, an elite tight end. What did Artie do with that?
Yeah, Falcons did not have a season that went their way, but they're going to be starting over yet again since that Matt Ryan era. So, the Falcons have just been an endless cycle of coach after coach, similar to division rival Panthers. Just that division, NFC South, has really been rough besides the Tom Brady Bucks experience, which is now ended.
Yeah, and we're going to get into the next game here, and it's a game we won't have to talk about for long at all. The only exciting part of this game was that it was played in heavy snow, and snow football games are fun to watch. Jets beat the Patriots in Foxborough 17-3.
Breece Hall
Trevor
was dominant.
Siemian starting, getting the win, but two very, very low-tier teams that won't have a chance at making the playoffs for a long time.
Possibly Belichick's last game. Possibly was, though. That was the storyline of this game. They did honor him at this game, knowing that it might be his last, similar to Mike Vrabel on the Titans. So this game did hold some value, and surprised to see the Patriots not put up more of a fight for their guy Belichick, because I thought they'd be having a lot to play for.
He's gonna leave. We all know he's gonna leave, and no matter what, he was gonna leave after this game. So I don't think that was a question at all. I think it's a matter of the Patriots suck. They're the worst team in the NFL. They won't have a chance at going to the playoffs for maybe 10 years. They have a full rebuild. A full rebuild. Not a coach at this point. He's leaving. Not a quarterback. Not a really good running back. Wide receivers, I'm still listening. They went through their dynasty, and now it's other teams' turns. The Patriots, don't watch the Patriots play football right now. No, just don't waste your time. This game, I can't talk about this more. This is a gross football game. Yeah. So next game, not as gross, but this one is really gross too. Buccaneers beat the Panthers 9-0. Baker Mayfield going up against Bryce Young. I mean, just you have to feel for Bryce Young in a horrible rookie year with no one around him. He was forced into, let's just say, worse than horrible situation, and the Panthers weren't able to do anything this year. Thought they might put up a fight against the Buccaneers, who don't impress me very much. But Baker shut them down as he got 9 points, which is about all Baker can do. I mean, I like him, but he's not a great elite quarterback.
The thing about this game that I'd like to mention that I feel like has kind of been not appreciated enough is how good the Panthers' defense has been, even though their offense has been totally atrocious. Their defense has actually been really solid, one of the better in the league. I mean, they've only given up very small margins of points over the last few games. Only 9 against the division winners, the Bucks, and against the Jags, it was pretty. I mean, for a while we did put up 26 on them, but for the first half they played a really good defensive game. So
Ejiro Avero doing a great job there for the defense.
Getting head coaching calls. I mean, they've got a good, solid defense. Offense obviously sucks. They don't have much there, but Panthers are the worst team in the league, but not as bad as some of the worst teams in the league have been in the past. They just need to fix some things up, get a solid, good coach that can stay there for a while, and I think they'll be heading up in the right direction again.
Yeah, I think you're right about that. But again, we're not going to take too long here. We're going to head to Cincy. Another blowout. Bengals beat the Browns in a completely meaningless game, 31-14. Jeff Driscoll against Jake Browning. Will either of those guys ever start in another NFL game again? I don't think so. I don't think so. Well, Joe Burrow is injury plagued, but they'll be getting a better backup after they realize that about Burrow. There's really not much here. I mean, let's look at some of the stats. Jake Browning, 156 yards, 3 TDs and 1 pick. Jeff Driscoll, 166 yards, 2 TDs, and 2 interceptions. So those are mediocre QB stat lines that I would expect to see. Also a game that wasn't a top-tier game this week, like the Jags game. That was entertaining, but this game was not.
Yeah, the only thing notable in this game, to me at least, was that Jeff Driscoll was starting. He's just such an interesting player to me, because when he was on the Texans a couple of years ago, he actually switched to tight end for a year. So a starting quarterback that played tight end in the NFL for a year. He caught a couple catches in preseason, but that was it. Just a very interesting player who played at Louisiana Tech in college.
Interesting, yeah. He's a cool guy, but not a great quarterback. Bears played out the Packers in a rivalry that had a lot of playoff implications. Packers got the win 17-9 in Green Bay. They're heading to the playoffs. Jordan Love has looked fabulous these past few weeks. Justin Fields should stay in Chicago. He's their future. They have horrible coaching. Eberflus should get fired. They fired one of their coordinators today. I think it was their offensive coordinator. But Eberflus should go. As for the Packers, trending in the right direction with the young quarterback and LaFleur, a great coach. So I think they could be sneaky in the playoffs. We'll see how this shakes out.
The thing about the Packers that I think is more deadly for them, at least going to the postseason, is first of all, they're on a hot streak. Second of all, they remind me a whole lot of last year's Jaguars in the fact that they had kind of a collective group of specifically younger players that have really rallied together at the end of the year. I mean, the Packers at the start of the year were one of the more bottom tier teams, but they've risen to the top. They win their division, and they're going to the postseason. Or sorry, they don't win, but they make it in the wild card. Lions win the division, but the Packers will go in with some momentum against Dallas, and that's a game I'm looking at as a possible upset. They're coming with a lot of momentum, beating Bears rivals. So that Bears game was a big win for them, obviously, even to get in the postseason.
Yeah, I mean, really big win to get in the postseason. That's all you needed to say.
Winning in.
All that game really mattered for was the Packers playoffs. And the rivalry, of course. But yeah, huge rivalry. But next game, they're in the same division. Is it a rivalry? No. Is it a good game? No. Is it a fun game? No. But it's the Cowboys at the Commanders, where the Cowboys whooped their butts, 38-10. Sam Howell was a failed experiment.
Oh, this
it's impossible to disagree with that. He threw a
He's-
lot of
he's-
picks,
he's had
couldn't win games.
yeah, he's shown flashes of good plays, but I mean they've had a really difficult last few years with Ron Rivera as coach.
Yeah, now he's fired.
Yeah, he's gone, so they're going through a big change. Commanders have just been a really interesting team. Coaching change, owner change, team name change, a lot of stuff happening there. And they just haven't been able to find some consistency, I feel like. Quarterback, coach, GM, team name, it's just been a ton of changes there in DC.
I mean, when you look up the definition of a poverty franchise, the first word that comes up should be the Commanders. That's all I'm going to say. It's really simple. All of that being said, they're the most plagued and worst franchise, not only on the field, but off the field in the league right now. And the Cowboys are dominant. They are one of the more scary Cowboys teams I've seen in the past few years, and they actually have a legitimate shot at the Super Bowl this year, compared to in the past where the Cowboys just get hype always, and I'm like, no, it's not their year. This year it could be their year. I really do think that. And I think the Cowboys are one of the more underrated teams in the league, and it's hard for someone that doesn't like the Cowboys to admit that, which is me, but it's true. I mean, Prescott has been balling out this year.
Yeah, Cowboys have a really good coaching staff too, and Mike McCarthy, a veteran coach. They've brought in some old coaches from Green Bay, and now he'll obviously be playing his former team, the game I just touched on. Cowboys, at least to me, don't impress me as much as some other people do, but I will agree they do have a Super Bowl chance more than they have in the past because they've got some more veteran experience, and CeeDee Lamb, who's had a really good, more unnoticed season.
Yeah, that's true. And next we head to the AFC West, where the Broncos will played the Raiders and lost 14-27. Las Vegas got the win in Las Vegas. Antonio Pierce, he should return. Las Vegas, they're heading in the right direction. Denver isn't. Russell Wilson is gone. They've got a horrible head coach, Sean Payton, that is was on the Saints, had some shady stuff, went to Fox, came back, not very good. Broncos aren't going to the playoffs. Neither are the Raiders, but the Raiders are kind of doing that a little up, while the Broncos are like, yeah, I don't think they've got a bright future.
Yeah, the thing with the Packers is, with the Broncos is, Sean Payton, he's just a really interesting coach in general. He's had a lot of success. I liked him more in the media, though, than I did as a coach personally. I thought he was good at Fox Sports, and I did not think he was going to return back to the NFL, so I'm shocked to see he just doesn't mix well with Russell Wilson, at least in my eyes. So
Oh, yes.
that
a horrible duo.
that experiment was obviously totally failed. I mean, lots of tension between those two, actually.
And he gave up on a great quarterback, too.
Yeah, I'll be interested to see who they go after at the quarterback position.
And they don't have a good draft pick either, so they're in a black hole, a loophole of post-Manning QB struggles, which is hard to overcome. Yeah. So same with the Colts. I mean, they really haven't overcome it either. Thought they did with Andrew Luck. They did not.
The other thing with the Broncos is I think they're going to have a really, really difficult time, at least as of now, as it stands now, going in the future in their division, because Chargers, if depending on the coach they have, they could go trending upwards again.
It really depends on the coach, because we saw how it went with Staley.
Chiefs
horrible for the franchise.
Chiefs are the Chiefs. Raiders, you never know. They've been playing some better ball lately. So Broncos, I think, as of how it stands now, are heading in the worst direction in that division, personally.
I agree with that, too. I mean, no lies detected. Eagles, Giants, shocking. No, not shocking, because the Eagles have been playing horrible lately. But the Giants won in New York 27-10 with Tyrod Taylor at the helm. Big win for the Chargers. We moved up one spot in the draft to the top 5. We have the 5th pick. Giants fall, but they win the game against one of their biggest rivals, if not their biggest rival. And I'm sure Giants fans are loving this. I mean,
yeah, this game, the thing that was interesting about this game is that you might look at it and say, oh, the Eagles had backs and they had nothing to play for. But actually, they were trying to get the 2 seed. But what ended up happening was a total disaster. Their best receiver, A.J. Brown, got injured. Jalen Hurts had a really rough start. Then they pulled him, of course, because they were down 20 zip. So really a total disaster in this one. The Eagles couldn't have gone more wrong. And I just look at them and the Jags. My Jags who have just gone completely downhill. Those 2 teams have just flopped towards the end of the year. 2 teams that were once very promised and in promised land have gone totally downhill and sideways. Eagles, if they can find some mojo again, I think they'll be back at the top of the league, but right now it's just not working there.
It isn't. It isn't working there, and it's going to be tough to win in the playoffs after falling off a cliff in the regular season. As we move to Arizona, the Seahawks beat the Cardinals 21-20 in the last game of the year. Seahawks, if they won, they had a 45% chance to make the playoffs. They're not going to the playoffs. Pete Carroll is retiring, basically, and the Cardinals missed a field goal to win. I mean, it was a bad miss. 50-yarder for Prater has to feel like money most of the time. But it wasn't. I wonder if there's a whisper saying, we want to keep the 4th pick. Miss this. No, that didn't actually happen. But it was a big kick for the NFL draft. And he missed it. And they kept the 4th pick so big for the Cardinals.
Yeah, I mean, the Seahawks really was wanting them to sneak in there at the end, but they didn't get help from the Bears. So this game turned out to be very meaningless, especially because the Cardinals didn't end up winning. So yeah, I mean, it's a division rivalry, but it didn't end up have a whole lot of meaning to it.
Yeah, not much meaning at all. And not much to say about that game except Pete Carroll, obviously.
Final game is Seahawks HC.
Yeah. Rams, this was a better game of the week. Rams beat the 49ers 21-20 in San Francisco. A huge momentum boost for the Rams and for their playoffs. I think this will help them potentially make a big run. And let's remember, at the start of the year, people were saying they could be the worst team in the league. Now look at them. They're in the top half. I mean, it's kind of amazing what Matthew Stafford has done with this franchise. Not only winning a Super Bowl, but now having another shot just a couple years later. I mean, it's wild to me that they're not going away anytime soon, evidently.
Yeah, it's going to be an emotional week for Stafford, of course, as he goes back to Detroit, the team he played for over 10 years. But the Rams do get in the playoffs. They do go in there with some momentum, and you just look at them and you think, wow, if some AFC teams were in their spot, they would be happy because the Rams just have not had a great season, but they found themselves in with a close to 500 record, and you see if maybe they can play with some house money and maybe upset Detroit. That would be shocking, but you never know. Rams have played some good ball lately.
Yeah, they have. And okay, we've got 2 games left. This game and then the Sunday Night Football game. I'm going to talk a lot about this game because it's the Chargers, my favorite team, last game of the year. We lost 13-12 at home in Los Angeles. Butker hit a field goal to win for the Chiefs. But it wasn't all too salty. I hate the Chiefs. I'm always rooting for them to lose. But this game just felt different. Easton Stick against Blaine Gabbert is not a Chiefs-Chargers game. It just isn't. I mean, they're two horrible quarterbacks. I hate to say it. They're 2 backup quarterbacks. And I don't think a lot of people were interested in this game, except for Chargers fans, when we lost, that's why I was saying it wasn't all too salty, because we were able to move from the 6th pick to the 5th pick, and very good. Very good as far as who we want to draft. We'll have more options, and probably our favorites will still be available, maybe. Marvin Harrison Jr., I don't think so, but someone like Malik Neighbors or Brock Bowers for sure. So a win wouldn't have meant much, and a loss is actually probably more helpful in the long run, as I hate to say it, but it's just true.
Yeah, I was honestly surprised how close the Chargers kept this game, even though Chiefs obviously had a really sucky lineup in this game. Blaine Gabbert, old former Jag, so he got drafted by us. He's an interesting quarterback and still making plays at 34. So Chiefs are just they have some depth, and Chargers just didn't have much to play for, of course.
Yeah, they didn't. They didn't, and we didn't, and we didn't win. But it's probably helpful. It is. That's all I'm gonna say. Sunday Night Football game, last game of Week 18. Before we wrap it up, it's Bills Dolphins at the Dolphins. Bills won 21-14, and in a big rivalry too, Josh Allen shut down Tua. Tua was in the MVP race. He was talked about. I just can't buy into the Tua hype. And the Chiefs play the Dolphins in the playoffs, and that will be a battle of teams that have kind of been overrated this year. Even I was a Dolphins believer. I said earlier this year the Dolphins are going to the Super Bowl, and now I do not think that. Because Tyreek Hill is all they've got. He's been banged up. And Tua just can't carry a team, clearly. I mean, that pick at the end of the game to give the Bills the win was just demoralizing if you're a Dolphins fan. I'm sure of it. I mean, you want to win that game, of course you do. And losing to the Bills at home just has to hurt. And Bills Mafia loved it.
Yeah, lots of people were waiting all day for Sunday night. This game was a huge game, and it would have been even bigger if we would have won, which we should have against the Titans, because Steelers were relying on either them or us to lose, and they got it with us, of course. But Bills, very, very, very massive win on the road against their division rivals. I was not expecting it, even though Dolphins are banged up. Josh Allen had a really nice game. Wide receivers played really well. Bills, of course, again, are dangerous in the playoffs, playing with some momentum too, so big win for Buffalo.
Yes, indeed. And that concludes all the games we'll recap in this episode. Again, we're about to release one with Nash and the Jags, talking about how their season ended, more in depth. Then we'll release a coaching carousel one in a few days, and lots more episodes to come, lots more to look forward to with diving into sports. We've been growing. We love it. We love to see the subscribers going up. And if you're listening on Spotify or anything else, click follow too. But if you're on YouTube, that's what we've been really trying to push hard for. Click subscribe. Other than that, thanks for listening. Yeah, see you all next time.
Thanks for tuning in, and go Jags.